So, Tyson, thank you so much for being here, man. I really appreciate your time.
Well, thanks for having me. I hope you enjoy my virtual background, so you don't see my underwear just sitting on the floor and just my room is a disaster.
I was kind of hoping we were going to see like the laundry lines behind you and just saw your clothes
I
hanging.
mean, I could do it. It just might frighten everybody, and you lose all your viewers for the rest of the year.
Well, let's take this back to when Tyson was little Tyson because I want to know when music itself started for you. Just what was your first like, wow, I really love music moment?
I don't. Well, my mom says I've been playing piano since I was 3.
Mm.
What that means exactly, I don't know. I mean, I'm guessing that's tinkering around, kind of working through "Mary Had a Little Lamb" by ear or something like that. But then, the things that really hooked me, I mean, the thing that hooked me into music, honestly, I think probably was the movie Amadeus, or around
Mm.
that time. I mean, obviously, I was into music like my whole life. Well, not obviously, for the I don't know who knows me, who doesn't, but like, I I've been playing. I took lessons from a lady that lived up the street. So that's kind of how I learned classical music and that type of stuff when I was small. And then Motley Crue and Twisted Sister and Van Halen and Quiet Riot ended up as presents at a birthday party
Mm.
and cassettes. And I was like, wait, I want to play guitar. This piano shit is boring, and I don't want to do this anymore. And so I won a talent contest in Greeley, Colorado, playing Mozart and
Oh, wow.
playing whatever. And I got $100 from that. And I took that $100 and went and bought my first guitar. It's a Gibson SG copy that was made by a company nobody's ever heard of called Orpheum, and I still have it. It's down in my garage, and sometimes we'll pull it out and play it on stage from time to time. And taught myself all the other instruments after that. But that's basically where it started. I was obsessed with Amadeus. I wanted to be that kid. I literally watched that movie. It's a long ass movie. I watched it every day after I'd finished my homework. I'd watch it, the whole thing, all like every day, for I don't know how long. And um, yeah. So that, I mean, that's kind of where it really got started. Was that kind of stuff.
So your introduction to music then was definitely classical, but then you switch from piano to guitar. So those were your first two instruments. And now when I see you at places like, the Monsters of Rock Cruise, you
Yeah.
play absolutely everything, every instrument. So you
Sure.
say you self-taught all of that?
Yeah. So like, guitar was the first thing I taught myself.
Mm.
And the problem is I can't. The reason I can't play like guys like Richie Kotzen and some of those kind of folks is because I haven't dedicated 5 hours a day to playing guitar like those guys have. You know, um, and then probably around 17, 18, I ended up back on keyboards again, and so my guitar playing and my guitar skills in terms of like teaching myself things, I can still do exactly the same things I was doing when I was that age, but I didn't progress much after that. So I could make you think that I'm really good, but I just really only have a handful of tricks that make it sound like I'm really flashy. But then when I'm here in Nashville playing with some of these guys, I'm like, God, man, I can't hold a candle to these people. Like, I'm not even close. And people are like, no, you can do that. I'm like, no, I legitimately can't, because I did not continue to develop the skill set that I need to really, really, really know that fretboard like inside out, like some of these people do, and playing sweeps and crazy runs and stuff. I can hang with people. I can lead just fine, but you know, I'm not Tracy Guns. I'm not Nuno Betancourt at all. Like, not even in the same. Like, I'm like not even in that guy's like pinky like fingernail. It's just like, but I'll play rhythm all day long. Bass came along because, just like a lot of people, I was in a band and they fired the bass player,
Mm.
and I was playing keyboards in the band. Well, keyboards were starting to be less prevalent in the material that we were recording, so switched to bass. So I ended up playing bass in this band for a while, and then I ended up playing bass in a cover band for 6 years, which really honed my bass skills. Playing stuff like Tool and Primus and Alice in Chains, and some things that are fairly challenging, especially Tool and Primus. Like, that I had to really like figure out, okay, how do I play bass like a bass player, not like a guitar player playing a bass guitar, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Yes, it does.
And then drums came about out of necessity at the piano bars that I work at. I work in dueling piano bars. That's one of my main sources of income and one of my more often kind of gigs. And those that so you got to play drums when you do those gigs, or at least at Howl at the Moon I did. And this was in Kansas City. Um, and I've always been an extreme drumming nerd, like, and that means, guys like, and I don't mean like extreme metal drummers, like, even though I love those guys too,
Hmm.
but I'm a huge fan of like fusion, jazz and rock fusion and stuff like that. So I loved guys like Dave Weckl, and I love guys that are other just inhuman on the drums, then that
Hmm.
do things that most people can't do. Vinny Caluta, even going back as far as like Buddy Rich and those kind of players. And then I love the prog rock guys, Neil Peart and Mike Portnoy and all those kind of guys. So I've always been a huge nerd about drums,
Hmm.
and it's probably the instrument I'm most picky about when it comes to choosing people to play in bands with. Um, Unfortunately, the band that with Roxy and Vixen, it was like, oh, okay, this is easy. It's like, it's solid. It's a foundation. It's not overly flashy, but it's that pocket. It's always, the groove is good, that kind of thing. Um, I because in Kansas City, I played with one of the best players in town for many, many years. And so to go from that to anything less is, God, it sticks out like a sore thumb. It's difficult. It's hard to work with drummers that don't have pocket. It's hard to work with drummers that can't land that fill at the end, and stuff like that, because I worked with a guy who was an expert at that for, geez, almost 20 years,
Oh
something
wow.
like that. Because we started in a band together in '98, and then our that band finally ended like in 2002. No, 2006. I'm sorry. And we got tired of playing Brick House every night of our life. Like, we were playing. It was a funk band. It was all, these guys were twice my age, and we were playing Earth, Wind, and Fire, and Kool and the
Hmm.
Gang, and Parliament, and OJ's, and like all of it. It was an all black band, and they were all like in their 40s except for me and Gogo, and we just we loved it. We did it for a long time. It was one of the best times of our lives. But at some point, you're just like, okay, I gotta not play Brick House anymore. I need to do something different. So we split off of that band and started a '90s band called 90 Minutes, and it was right around the time bands like Blink 182 and Lit and all the bands that are all the songs that are you play that you hear on Broadway here in Nashville. We were doing that 10, 15 years ago, when it was kind of a new thing to do, because I was playing a frat party with my original band, um, in Manhattan, Kansas, and there was this kid that would get up between bands to entertain people while they were setting up for the next band, and he was playing Sister Hazel and Matchbox 20 and
Mm.
Gin Blossoms and all this stuff, and all these kids were losing their minds and singing every word. And I got home and I called Gogo Ray, the drummer, and I said, "Hey, I think I know how we're getting out of playing Brick House every night. Let's start a '90s band." And we did, and it was very successful. We did it. In fact, the screensaver on my computer is from like this big stage in Kansas City, where there's probably 1,500, 2,000 people all standing there watching us, and I got my hand up in the air, and we're playing, we're probably playing 311 or whoever, whatever. And the rules on that band was that all the songs, you can do any song you want, any genre, as long as it came out between January 1st, 1990 and December 31st, 1999. That was the rule.
Wow, that's
And we
awesome.
Yeah, and so we did that for a little over 6 years, and then after that, I went to play. That's when I started the piano bar career. When that ended.
So I'm gonna backtrack just a little bit because there was a few things I was writing down as you were talking that I want to touch on. But I know you're like an encyclopedia of music. I've seen it in the dressing rooms and stuff like that, where everybody's like, "Ask Tyson, he'll know," or
Yeah,
like,
right, right.
Tyson will know how to play that. But what was the
Very nerdy.
turning? But that's cool though, because I love knowing that, like, there's that huge range of like no matter when it came out or whatever, I'm gonna know it. And you said that things kind of took a turn for you music wise when Twisted Sister and Motley Crue and stuff like that. So was that like a big eye opening moment that just kind of set the tone for what you would become?
Yeah, I mean, MTV was obviously very instrumental in that. I'm very, very fortunate, I believe, and I think that I came up in a way. I kind of wish I was just a little bit older because there's some '70s stuff I really wish I would have been around for. I wish I would have been able to see Queen with Freddie Mercury and whatever.
Mm,
But I mean, I was glued to MTV every day. It was on my in my household all the time. Um, and so, but yeah, the hard rock stuff spoke to me for whatever reason. I guess I don't know if it's the aggression or I just think that, but also the songs are great. A lot of
mm,
great songs. But at the same time, while I was loving Motley Crue, I was also loving Prince and Madonna and Michael Jackson, like everybody else, and Huey Lewis and the News and Men at Work and whatever was on the radio and on MTV at the time.
mm,
Um, but in terms of like how it gravitated to what I wanted to play, that stuff was so guitar driven, and I wanted to play guitar. I remember teaching myself one of the first licks I ever learned was My Michelle by Guns N' Roses, which
mm.
was 1988. And I remember specifically exactly like sitting down in we called it the Atari room, which is where the Atari was set up. We'd play video games, and my amp was in there, and I remember working on My Michelle, and my dad walking in going, did you and your friend spray paint this guy's garage? Because if so, you got to go over to this guy's house and repaint his garage. Uh, okay, yep, that was us, and that was so. I mean, it's that was we were a bunch of little asshole kids and spray painting satanic symbols on this kid's garage because we were mad at him, And where do we get the satanic symbols from? Motley Crue, Shout at the Devil.
I,
It's just
I was gonna say, yeah.
because we're stupid, and we're whatever age we were, and yeah, good
Oh,
times.
that's great. So, would you say that over the years, with all of your influences, all the things that you were into musically, was like that hair metal era? Was that always the centerpiece? Was that always your favorite, or did it
Yeah,
fluctuate?
very
Yeah.
much so. I once Headbangers Ball became a thing. Game over. You know,
Mm,
um, back when it was still Adam Curry and his bad jackets and fluffy hair and I there was something about. Well, there was a variety of things. You had MTV and you had Headbangers Ball. We also had in Kansas City. We had a radio station called Z Rock,
mm,
that was syndicated out of Dallas, Texas, and it went all over the United States. And I remember accidentally coming across this radio station, just tune and dial, and I stop at the radio station because they're playing "Twist of Cain" by Danzig, and I'm just like, wait, nobody plays this on the radio. What is going on? And I keep listening to this radio station and realize that it's an all heavy metal station. And the
mm,
next thing that they did, which was crazy to me, it was like 10 p.m. and they played Appetite for Destruction in its entirety, uncensored, on the radio. And I was like, wait, they're not even bleeping out the fucks and the shits. Like, this is crazy. What is this radio station? And I listened to it all the time. In fact, this T-shirt I'm wearing, this Mr. Big, they played "Addicted to That Rush" like once an hour. Like I was tired of that song back then, like so. But I learned so much about bands from that radio station because they had so many different shows on it. They had the thrash metal thing, like the Headbangers Heaven, that started at midnight, and it was like so you got to hear all these thrash bands. And middle afternoon, you're hearing bands like Vane and Dangerous Toys, and all the
mm.
bands that play M3, all the bands that play on the ship. They were playing that stuff in regular rotation during the day. It wasn't, it was the most glorious radio station ever. And I
Wow.
want like the very first CD I ever owned was Vane's "No Respect" because I won it from calling in and being caller number 9. I didn't even have a CD player yet, um, but I had a CD and that was it. So and I mean I actually got Vixen's "Rev It Up" cassette from Z Rock. I had the first album, but I didn't have the second one.
Mhm.
Um, so between that and Headbangers Ball, that the whole 80s metal genre, and Metal Edge magazine and Hit
Mhm.
Parader, Circus, Rip magazine, all of those things. I because like you said, I'm the reason that I'm so encyclopedic in my brain with music is because I consumed all of that stuff all the time. Like
Mhm.
I was the kid that was listening to the record and opening the cassette and reading the liner notes and enjoying the artwork and who produced this record, who played banjo on Uncle Tom's Cabin, whatever.
Mhm.
And that's how nerdy I was. And so I was the kid that wanted to be, and also I was a writer. So I wrote for this teen magazine called Teens Today, something really silly, but I was the guy that would review the bands and review albums that came out and stuff like
Oh,
that. Even though I was a teenager, I was a kid, and then that led me to actual journalism jobs, interviewing. My very first rock star I ever interviewed was Bobby Blitz from Overkill, and
wow.
I remember going on their tour bus and going, oh my god, they're playing Super Mario Brothers like on TV, like in a bus. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like that's how old that was. That's how long ago that was.
Wow, that's incredible. But so you start doing interviews with rock stars and stuff like that. But again, you just mentioned getting Vixen's second album. But how I'm jumping all over the place here because there's
Sure,
so
well,
much to talk about. But how do you find your way into Vixen to begin with? How does that happen?
um, so the short version is I moved to Nashville in 2015 or 2015. 2 months later, I'm jumping on a tour bus playing country music with a guy named Tracy Lawrence for the first time in my life, and I'm terrible at it when when Tracy was popular, I was listening to Alice in Chains and Tool and Rage Against the Machine and 311 and stuff. I didn't even know who he was, back then.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, I in fact, and as you know, for metalheads and stuff like back then, it was like, you can't listen to rap music, you can't listen to we were stupid and we were
Yeah.
whatever, and so country wasn't on my radar. My mom liked country music, but she only liked Garth Brooks and like Marty Stewart and a couple other guys. So I knew those guys, but everything else I didn't know.
Hmm.
So I lasted about a month in the Tracy Lawrence gig, and then went home with my tail between my legs, and thinking I wasn't going to get another gig after that because I'd already been fired from my gig, and the
Hmm.
first and it's funny because I just told this story at lunch today actually too, and then so I just went back to playing piano bars here, a place called the Big Bang for a while, and then I'm pulling out of a Target, which I just pulled out of again today this afternoon, and my phone lights up and says Tony Higbee, and I'm like, shit, what? Why is this guy calling me? I don't barely know this guy at all.
Hmm.
I do now, but back then I had no, I didn't really know him, and I don't even know why his phone was in number was in my phone. Like, but I was like, okay, hello, and Tony says, hey man, this is Tony Higbee. Um, Cher Ross from Vixen is looking for a keyboard player that can do tour managing duties. Is that something you could do? And I was like, yeah, sure, yeah, I could do that. I didn't have a lot of tour managing experience, but I did with Pomeroy, which is a band that we toured all over the universe. Literally like van and trailer routing shows using MapQuest like printouts because there was no GPS and all that kind of stuff, and advancing shows. Like I was the guy with the little flip phone, razor, stupid phone, doing all that kind of stuff. Getting there was no backline or any of that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. We had to carry all of our own stuff, and we would. And I was the guy that was making the calls. So I was like, well, yeah, I could do that. I mean, how hard can it be? I hadn't done it on a Vixen level thing, but I'm gonna figure it out. And literally when I hung up the phone, I started like Googling things, just like, okay, how to, day sheets and all of the things that trying to basically remind myself what a tour manager does.
Hmm.
Because I'm not going to say no. And then, I'm going to say yes and apologize later and be like, oh shit, I hadn't figured that out yet, but I'll figure it out. And I did. And, and so Brittany and I went to Florida at the same time. We auditioned at the same time,
Hmm.
and it was no Janet. It was just me and Cher and Britt and Roxy at Cher's house on her shag green carpet with her big ass dog, and we played a handful of songs. And Cher recorded it on a video camera, sent all that stuff to Janet, and then had a Zoom call later or whatever. And then we woke up the next day and they said, "You're in the band," and we've been there ever since.
Wow. And what year was this?
2017,
2017.
February.
Okay, because
Yeah.
the first time I saw Vixen with you in the band was the tail end of 2019, so I wasn't sure how long you'd already been in
Yeah.
at that point.
Roxy will say it's 2018, but she's full of shit because I actually went one day when she said that. I went to I went to my calendar and went all the way back and be like, okay, when was this actually happening? I was like, I said,
Hmm.
I told you it was 2017. So
Well, so now I want to touch on something else that you brought up a couple times. Now you mentioned piano bars and like dueling piano and stuff like that. Now, um, the Monsters of Rock cruise is like the Tyson Leslie show. I saw you
so
more
ridiculous.
than I said it, but it sounds like that, right? It might sound like that, but if you've been on the ship, anybody listening to this who's been on the ship, they go, yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Because I
Right.
saw you more than I saw anybody else on that ship. And one of my favorite things that I saw was the night that we came to watch you do the dueling pianos. And
Good.
that was probably my favorite thing that I saw on the ship. I had so much fun watching that and the songs that you guys were doing back and forth, like from like Sesame Street to Kiss.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. So that's what you were doing prior when you say these piano bars into the pianos, right?
Yeah. 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 Yep.
So how does that find its way onto the Monsters of Rock cruise? Is that something you suggested, or was
It
it just
is.
kind of
I
okay?
suggested it to Larry, who's the guy who puts on the whole cruise, because I had done it on other cruise ships before. I had done it on the Kiss cruise before.
Mm,
I had done it on some other Sixth Man cruises, which is another company that does a lot of different themed cruises.
mm,
Um, and so I think I saw an opportunity to do something like that. So we talked about it. He brought up Will Dowdy, who plays with Poison, and I was like, yeah, that'd be cool. And the thing is, the only difference is that Will is not a dueling piano player like I am. He plays songs and he sings them very well,
mm,
but he didn't quite know the shtick on
mm,
how, because there's a lot of banter back and forth. It's very audience involved. It's very much, cut out the cut out the excess. You don't have to do the bridge. You don't always have to do every solo. You don't even have to do every verse. Sometimes you're cutting songs down, making them shorter so you
mm,
can get to the next song. And there's a lot of on the fly thinking that you have to do in a dueling piano show. And so it took Will and I a handful of times to kind of really find our groove.
mm,
And I feel like now we really have it. It's taken us a while, but we work together very well. This is the first year I brought a third party on because last year I felt like I still needed Will to see me going back and forth with somebody who has this experience, right?
mm, mm.
And so he can kind of, and also um, I started getting so busy with other things is to bring Cal on in case I got to bail on this a little early so I can
Mm.
go do this other thing. So now we've got another player that can do it and can kind of come and cover, or shit, Will's running late because, he ate bad food or whatever it is. So Cal, go ahead and you and I'll start right now. And then
Mhm,
we'll be here in a half hour and we'll be all set. So that really worked out well to have that third player. The only difference is this year the shows were much shorter than they usually are. A
mm.
typical dueling piano show is 4 to 6 hours long.
Oh wow.
On the ship, it's more like an hour, hour and a half.
Mhm.
So like you're done before you even really feel like you're getting started. It's weird.
Wow. Well, I want to touch on too. So you just mentioned like in case you have to run off and do something else. So I'm going to clarify why I said that it's the Tyson Leslie show because you played with Vixen, of course.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden I'm watching L.A. Guns and I lean over to Roxy and I say Tyson's over there because we're because we were on the side of the stage and we didn't know.
Right.
And then I looked
Right.
across and I saw you. And then I went to watch Pete Evick, and I was like, "Oh, Tyson's up there." And then
Right.
dueling pianos, and then rare hair.
Yeah.
So you are all over that entire ship for 5 days. I think I would mostly see you in passing, going, "Hey guys, I'm going here now. If you want to check it out," and then you just be
Yeah.
gone.
Right.
How did that
Yeah.
like that had to have like built up over time? So like how did that end up
Yeah.
escalating to that point?
It's just the so I obviously started doing cruises with Vixen back in 17 or 18, I guess. I
Mm-hmm.
think it was 18 because the first year I was with them, we didn't do the cruise. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember being disappointed because I've been hearing about this for years and I wanted to go since I first heard about it in 2012. So the first time I just played with Vixen. That was all I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the Dueling Pianos thing started, I think maybe the year after or maybe the year after that, I don't remember exactly. And that became so popular, um, just organically. People just like to have something that wasn't loud guitars and in your face. It was something that was
Mm-hmm.
kind of chill that they could sit down and just, or it's something that you could do between watching bands or whatever. And then Rare Hair, which is a jam that I do here in Nashville 3 4 times a year, where we take all these touring guys that play in country bands and all these guys that are from the 80s that live here, from like Eric Brinningham from Cinderella or Billy Sheehan from Mr. Big, or, and so on, that live here now. And then guys that play down on Lower Broadway playing covers for drunk people. We throw them all in a pot and we play a bunch of deep cut 80s metal. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's called Rare Hair. And so I suggested that to Larry on the cruise. He gave us a shot. And the very first one was in this little weird lounge on the ship, and it was so overpopulated and so busy that people were spilling into the stairs and all over the place. And we did that in that spot for 2 years. And finally, the people just started bitching on like, please put this in a venue things, because what the biggest draw to Rare Hair is you're taking all these rock stars on the ship and you're making them play cover songs, that you in lineups you'll never see again, ever. You
Mm-hmm.
won't see it again. It's the only time you'll see it ever. You're not going to see, you know I don't know. We've had God, and we've done so many shows now that it's hard to remember what we've done. But you got David Ellison up there from Megadeth playing Halloween or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and just stuff like that. That's just cool. And as a fan, I sometimes I forget about how, like, you don't get to see it,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, unless you're there. And so that's the appeal to that. And so, but the only reason that works is because of all the years. Every year I go and I will give myself credit for this, and this is the one thing that I do network very well. I love talking to people. I love meeting people. Whatever. I remember going to that very first artist party on the cruise and being like, "Holy crap! Every single one of these people used to hang on my wall when I was a kid, like in a poster."
Yeah.
And that was surreal. It was so weird. And so, but I made it a point always to meet everybody that I really admire, exchange phone numbers, all that kind of stuff, strike up friendships, strike up conversations all throughout the week. And I
Mm-hmm.
learned that before I started doing Monsters cruises. I was doing the Kid Rock cruise and the Kiss cruise and the Rob Gronkowski party ship with a band called the Big Rock Show out of Nashville.
Oh
And
wow.
so,
Yeah.
so I learned how the whole cruise thing worked
Mm-hmm.
from that. And then so once it became Monsters, which is like, if sensory overload the first time you ever go, because you're like, it's not 20 bands, it's 40 bands. It's like, oh my God, like, how am I going to see all this stuff and do all this stuff and meet all these people? And you just organically kind of find a way into doing that.
Yeah.
And so now that I've been doing it for so many years and forming friendships, the reason that I played with LA Guns is because LA Guns and Vixen played on the 80s cruise together 2 years ago.
Mm.
And I watched LA Guns the first time in the audience, and I saw Tracy, the guitar player, the next day. And I was like, there's a lot of room over there in front of you to the left. I think you need a keyboard player that needs to play on this song and this song and this song that have keyboards in on the records. He's like, yeah, come on. That's it. And I've been playing with them ever since whenever. Same thing with Faster Pussycat. That was the
Mm-hmm.
first other band that I ever just sit in with all the time.
Yeah.
Same kind of deal. I became friends with Chad Stewart, and I'd known Ace Von Johnson long, long before he was in Faster Pussycat, and just started to slowly get to know everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And there's piano all over that stuff, like, tons. So I was like, hey, if you guys ever need a keyboard player to sit in, I don't charge it. That's the other thing that was very interesting, is there's this common misperception apparently among cruisers that I'm making a ton of money because I'm playing with all these artists. I do not make a cent to play with any of them except for the few things that I'm actually getting paid for, which is Dueling Pianos, Vixen, and Rare Hair. Everything else I'm doing voluntarily because these are albums and bands that I grew up with listening to. I didn't even have to rehearse any of it. I didn't have to practice at home. All these songs are are in my DNA. They're part of my I played for Brett Michaels a couple years ago or last year or whenever it was in December in at Mohegan Sun at the arena there.
Yes.
I I did not touch my keyboard a single time before I went on that gig because I know every single one of those songs on that set list like the back of my hand. I played them in bands for decades over the years. I don't need to practice that stuff. I just need to know how are you ending this because it's probably different than the way we ended at, this bar over here. And that's all I needed to know. So when I play with Ted Foley from Danger Danger, I play with Faster Pussycat, I play with LA Guns, it's because I love those bands and I love those songs and I know them. And that's kind of how all that stuff happened. Now, the All-Star Jam thing with Sebastian, that was different. That was a whole separate deal. Um, I had to learn a whole bunch of different songs, not only just Skid Row songs for him, but we had this guy that goes by Little Ozzy.
Oh
So
yeah.
we had 3 Ozzy songs that we did. We did a bunch of Deep Purple stuff and stuff like that. So that's a whole different thing. And that was the pre-party, and then we did one show on the ship.
I want to stick with these like All Star Jams and Rare Hair for just 1 second because
Sure,
I wanted to let everybody know too that if they come and see Rare Hair, whether it be on a ship or in Nashville or wherever, you're not always on keys. Like you jump around, like you'll play
sure.
whatever instruments needed for each song. Was that always the thing, or is that something
Yeah,
that's just?
yeah.
Oh, okay,
It
okay.
was a way for me to honestly, if I'm being perfectly honest, is to showcase what I can do.
Hmm.
So that way other people go, oh wait, I didn't know you did that. Well, yeah, I can do that. I can play that. I can play this instrument. I can do this. So that way it ups my value.
Hmm.
And also, or in some cases, it's just out of necessity. Oh shit. Tracy didn't show up. Well, it's fine. I'll play it. I know it already.
Oh, okay,
Uh,
yeah,
things like that happen too. So
okay, that makes sense. And then you also mentioned another cruise where you played with the big rock show. Was that with Ryan Cook?
that is with Ryan Cook.
That's what I thought. Okay, and for anybody listening who doesn't know, he now is with Ace Frehley, formerly, or maybe still is with Gene Simmons too. I'm not sure.
Yes, it's Ryan and Jeremy from the Ace/Gene camp, and then my buddy Dino Workman, who's like this government official in DC now, and this guy named Matt Green, who is a drummer here in Nashville, who I haven't seen since then. I haven't seen him in years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this next thing I want to talk to you about is when you're not out on the road with Vixen, you do still have your band in Nashville, and I want you to plug that band and tell everybody about that band right now before I move on to anything else.
Well, I don't really. I mean, uh, things have ebbed and flowed and shifted. So these days, I know the band you're talking about.
Mhm.
I was fired from said band. I'm not doing that band anymore. And but it is um, I am basically living at Kid Rock's on the rooftop from on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm there every week, and I've been doing that gig for like 6 years at this
Oh
point.
wow.
I took a break from that gig because of some personal issues, and I joined a band that you're talking about, and I did that for several months, and things were going very well until they weren't, and that's just
Mhm.
kind of how things happen. Just things happen in our business, and whether it's personal things or whether it's business things or both or whatever.
Mhm.
And I was kind of let go under the guise of it's slow season and you're the fifth wheel and we're trying to make better money, which is true. During slow season in December, things slow down here. The tips become less, and
Mhm.
so even in the band that I do playing right now at Kid Rocks, we did the same thing. We cut out our fifth wheel as
Mhm.
well, and we're still currently playing as a 4 piece, and probably will bring him back into the fold in the next couple weeks as it's starting to pick up now.
Oh.
The only difference is I didn't get brought back into that band, um, I'm still doing the Kid Rocks thing now, and that is a pop band. We don't even have a name. We've never had a name. We're just the closing band Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We've been doing that forever. We play everything from Cyndi Lauper to Dua Lipa to
Mm.
Kenny Loggins to Aha to like it's all pop music, 80s, a lot of 80s stuff and a lot of current stuff. Bruno Mars, things like that, and it's fun for me, because I love that kind of stuff as well. It's very keyboard centric, so there's a lot of playing around with sounds and stuff like that that are fun for me as well. And then on Thursdays I'm off, and then Fridays, Saturdays I do the dueling pianos. That's kind of my schedule here for the most part when I'm not out with the girls.
Hmm. So I'm going to touch on this again because now you just reminded everybody that I said that you were an encyclopedia of music. So
Right.
your biggest influences then, when you first started this journey, to your biggest influences now, are they the same or are they different?
Uh, they're kind of both. I mean, Prince is my all-time guy. He
Mm.
has been since I was a kid, and Michael Jackson, really, for that matter. But then I was also super hardcore into the Ramones, like from when I was like little until a teenager.
Mhm.
That was my favorite band for years and years and years and years. And then I loved all the punk scene from back in the day, from the Sex Pistols, Minor Threat, and Black Flag, and Dead Kennedys, and all those kinds of bands. That was just an extension of the metal stuff that I liked, you know. And then of course thrash metal came into the play around eighth grade or something. So it was Anthrax and Megadeth and Death Angel and Exodus and and all the speed. And those guys really are the bands that taught me how to play guitar. Like I sat around working on Metallica riffs all the time and
Mm.
all that. That's why my right hand picking hand is so fast, is because I was sitting around playing that kind of stuff. And so when I one year got asked to help organize the rehearsals for the All-Star Jam on the Megadeth cruise, and I walked into the room and saw my entire childhood sitting there in front of me, I was petrified. I was like, okay, Scott Ian and Charlie Benante from Anthrax and Alex Skolnick from Testament, and you guys just stay on stage because you're on like first. You're doing like the first three songs. Bobby from Overkill, go to lunch. I won't see you for at least an hour. So, and I'm just like, I was like Sylvester Stallone, man. Turn the hat around. It's like, okay, time to go to business because Ellison asked me to do this. Terrifying. I'm just like, these guys don't know me, and how am I supposed to be in charge of anything if they don't even know who I am, let alone have them trust me? But they did, because I just did exactly what. And the thing is, they were like, "Man, that was awesome! You got the rehearsals done an hour and a half ahead of time. Like everything was done. Everybody was happy. It was great. It's so good."
Well, you are great at networking, though, and everybody does know you because I was at a random place in upstate New York at a Bad Marriage concert, and people were
Right?
like, "I know Tyson Leslie," and I'm texting you, going, "What? How does everybody know you everywhere?"
I don't
Like,
know. But this is my favorite one though. Is I was in a band called Pomeroy for a long time, from 2002 to 2012, and we were playing in Djibouti, Africa. All right, and we're playing the military bases, and
yeah.
we're just sitting there, and we hear these two guys yelling, "Pomeroy!" And we're like, "Wait, we're in Africa," and these two guys were just old Kansas boys that were stationed there, but they were from
Wow.
from where we're from, and that's how they knew it. So I mean, the music world can be very, very, very small.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So, all right, so this next part of the interview is a fun part, and it's called the lightning round because it started with Brit Lightning,
Right,
and
hilarious.
now it carries on to every single guest that I have because everybody gets such a kick out of it. So I have just a series of quick questions that have absolutely nothing to do with anything at all,
Great.
and it's just for fun for fans to get to know you a little bit
Okay.
in a different way, I guess. So, first question that has nothing to do with anything is, do you prefer dinner or dessert?
Oh, dinner.
Do you prefer chocolate or vanilla?
Vanilla. Well, unless you're talking about women, then that's a whole different subject altogether.
You're the first person that's ever said that.
Ah, God. I love black girls, but I always end up with fucking vanilla girls every time. I don't know why. It's
How
not out of
about,
lack of trying, though.
well, we're just going to put this out. We're just going to clip that one little bit out and put it out as its own standalone thing.
Perfect.
Just,
Yes, you should.
horror movies or comedies?
Horror.
All right, this next question, that's a great answer, by the way, because I'm a giant horror movie fan. I don't know if we knew
I'm
that about each
aware.
other.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, This next question could be this could cost you your job. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Guitar or drum solo?
Ooh, it depends on who's playing it.
All right.
Like I would love to hear an Eddie Van Halen guitar solo, but Yngwie Malmsteen's going to put me to sleep. Um, I love a Mike Portnoy solo or something that's really complicated, like watching guys like Vinny Colaiuta and stuff like that. But like watching Bernard Purdy play a solo, as much as that guy's influenced the world, it's a snore fest. I'm like, okay, just get back to the song, please.
All right. I think I might know the answer to this one, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Motley Crue or Poison?
Uh, I have to go with Motley just because they really shout when I heard "Shout of the Devil" for the first time, I was like, okay, yeah, I want to do that. That record changed my life.
And it made you spray paint a garage.
It did.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Here's a weird one for you. You're going through the Bermuda Triangle. Are you going on a plane or a boat, and why?
Well, I'm probably on a boat playing with LA Guns and 9 other bands.
That's fair. That's fair. Uh, New York or Chicago style pizza?
Ooh, uh, I'm gonna go with Chicago because I just haven't had enough New York, to be honest. Like the authentic, true. I just haven't been there enough to form the greatest opinion. The only New York style pizza I've had is not in New York. Let's put it that way.
All right, fair. What about favorite movie of all time?
That's a hard one. I still tend to go with Goodfellas though
Hmm.
because I've probably seen that more than any other movie ever,
Yeah, all right, all right. And now
other than Amadeus.
I'll throw a swerve in there too. How about favorite horror movie of all time?
Ooh, I don't. I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't know that I have one. Um,
Do you have a genre then, like slasher, paranormals, and
no. I mean, like I loved the Evil Dead series.
mm, hmm
Like from the first one, I love how the first one was terrifying, and then the rest of them were just hilarious.
yeah,
It's just like there was that I didn't really see it coming that way, but um, I love the Terrifier series, which are just ridiculous and over the top.
yeah.
I really enjoyed those recently. And it's funny because my girl, she's like, "Why do you watch stuff like that? Why do you enjoy stuff like that?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just do. Like maybe it's because I want to do that to people, but I can't. So I just got to get it out somewhere else. I
That's
don't
right.
know. Um, but I love. I like. Man, I haven't really got super into the paranormal stuff that much, but I liked all the old like Amityville horror, like all the classics.
Mhm.
All the classics are big for me. All the Jason, Friday 13th, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the big ones, all that
Yeah.
stuff was great. But like I also loved, the Reanimator series, and I
Mm-hmm.
loved Creep Show, like the original one,
Yeah.
and just all that kind of campy 80s and early 90s stuff was very much my wheelhouse for sure.
That's all the stuff I used to show people who weren't super into horror when I was younger. I'd be like, just watch Reanimator. Just watch the Reanimator. And then they'd come back and be like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, because it's so twisted and weird. But like Clive Barker he had some really interesting movies back then in the 90s. And I worked in a movie theater for a long time, so I got to see all that stuff in the theater
Oh, that's awesome.
for years. So that was fun.
That's awesome. Now, do you have a favorite cartoon of all time?
Cartoon?
Mm-hmm.
Like show?
In general, just any, whatever your favorite cartoon character, anything.
Oh man. I don't know. I mean, just because I'm stupid, I'd probably have to go with like Beavis and Butthead or South Park or something. But I mean, I also love Tom and Jerry, and I love Bugs Bunny and all that kind of stuff. I still watch all that stuff and crack up like I'm 6.
I actually had Bugs Bunny on the ship.
There you go. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite TV show?
TV show. Probably. I love Dexter.
Mm.
Um, I love the Breaking Bad series. I've been really into all that. Like, I not the period Taylor Sheridan stuff, like the Yellowstone and the 1920 whatever and all that, but like Tulsa King and Lioness and all that stuff was really
Mhm.
fun. And whatever the one that Billy Bob Thornton was in,
Oh yeah,
incredible.
Landman.
God,
Yeah,
so good. So I've
that
been digging all that stuff
we just
lately.
finished. We did Breaking Bad. We did Landman. We did Yellowstone. We just started Dexter. Neither one of us have seen it before. We're 3 episodes in.
Oh man,
Oh, I'm
you're in
hooked.
for a wild ride there.
So this is how I like to wrap up these interviews. So this is the time where I give you the opportunity to plug whatever you want to plug, talk about anything that you want to talk about, and of course plug your social media for the two people in the world that don't know you. But everybody else
Right.
probably probably already has it. But just plug everything, your next shows and all that stuff.
All right. Let's see. Well, so I do rare hair several times a year, 3 or 4 times a year. We got one every 2 years. We do a thing called Rockin' Pod here in Nashville, which you should be involved with because I'm on a podcast, and the whole thing is podcasters that come together with musicians and promote each other. And so we always bring in a bunch of different rock stars and people like that, and we do a rare hair show around that, and that is
Hmm.
happening at Third and Lindsley. In fact, I'm gonna have to pull my calendar up so I can look at this stuff. That's happening on April 11th
Hmm.
at a place called Third and Lindsley, and then uh, after that, but I won't be there because I will be on Cruise to the Edge playing a bunch of, listening to a bunch of prog rock people playing 9,000 notes. And so I'll be gone, and then we got Vixen stuff right after that, so I'm gonna have to miss that. And then of course Vixen has a bunch of stuff coming up, which you can all find at vixenofficial.com. But if you don't put the official down, you might see porn. So I'm just saying, you might want to be mindful of that. Unless you want to see porn, then cool. Um, then we got the M3 festival coming up. But then let's see, what else do I have going on? Oh, oddly enough, I don't know when this is airing, but on Monday, this Monday, the 31st, I'm at the Basement East playing original music of my own for the first time in ages.
Hmm.
And this is going to be an interesting show because I'm opening up for a guy named Chris Nix who plays for Jonathan Davis of Korn, but he has his own solo material that he's put together with a guy named Billy Sheehan, who's in this band, and Chris Frazier from Foreigner, and a guy named Jace Everett who did the theme song to a TV show called True Blood, and he is playing his own music. I'm like, how the hell am I going to open for this guy? I don't really want to play like my pop rock music before him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play 3 songs by myself, solo piano, vocal, and then 15 minutes with a drummer named Tom Hurst, who was the guy who got me the Tracy Lawrence gig, and we're just going to make it up. It's just going to be improv for 15 minutes. I have no idea what we're going to play or what
Wow.
genre or what style or what it's going to be at all. I'm just going to say, hey, pick a beat and I'm going to follow you. I don't care what you play. I don't care what time signature, whatever. I'll figure it out. And then we'll find a way to start it and end it, hopefully. And then just kind of see how that goes for 15 minutes, and that should be fun. I did that one other time in Kansas City years ago, except that show was 55 minutes, and that was really challenging, coming up with almost an hour's worth of stuff just out of thin air.
Wow. Wow.
So
That's
that's
intense.
happening. Yeah, so that's happening March 31st at the Basement East. That show starts at 7 p.m. So it's an early show. So all you people that bitch about, hey, it's on a Monday. Well, you know what? We're done. I'll be done out of. We're all out of there by 10 o'clock. So I don't want to hear it. And then the next Rare Hair show that we're gonna do, I believe, is August 12th, which is a Tuesday after the Rock and Pod, and that one is going to be an opportunity for a lot of people in Nashville who have not been able to play one yet to play. It's all about the new faces, giving new people an opportunity to be part of it. And then I'll be on the Blue Cruise a week after that, and I'm going to Kansas City on the 1st of August to revisit the Pink Floyd show I did in December, which is all of Dark Side of the Moon and all of The Wall. And I guess we're adding something else from either, I don't know what, from Animals or from one of those records. So we'll see how that goes. Aside from that, all my social media, everything's just Tyson Leslie. It's one of the nice things about having a semi unusual name is that I don't have a John Smith or whatever. I mean, so you can just find my name, look me up, and I'm very very easy to find.
All right, very cool. Well, I do appreciate you being here and doing
Yeah,
this. It
thanks
was,
for having me. It's fun.
of course, it was a blast, and I'd like to have you back sometime when we do some of our discussions about like certain bands' albums when they come up to their anniversaries and all that stuff. If you'd be up for it.
Yeah, of course.
And I will see you, sir, in Niagara Falls on the 19th of April because I will be
You will
missing you at
not.
Mo.
Oh, April. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, yeah, I was gonna say you won't be seeing me at the what is that Mohegan Sun.
No, no, Mohegan Sun. What April 5th? I will not see you there, but I will catch you in the falls.
Cool. Awesome. Sounds good.
All right, man. Well, thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time.
All right. Thanks.